Hi, and welcome to Strut and Bellow. This is my first Strut and Bellow live. I'm on Facebook and I'm on Instagram, so I haven't quite figured out the eye line properly yet. I'm kind of doing this on the hoof, but welcome to Strut and Bellow. I am Melanie Clark-Pullen, and I'm excited to start this new thing as part of the website. I'm really excited this year. There's been loads of ideas for how to create a platform that champions and puts a spotlight on ordinary women doing extraordinary things, because you're out there. So Fridays up until now on the blog have been a place where I do a shout out. I kind of share a little bit about an artist or an activist or somebody that I really I like, or that I recommend, and I do a shout out. So today I thought I would do a shout out for St. Bridget. The 1st of February is the beginning of spring, the Celtic beginning of spring, and St. Bridget's feast day. And yeah, it's funny because obviously there was a goddess who was Bridget, and there is a Saint Bridget, but they aren't the same person. And there's the whole thing about, oh, well, Saint Bridget, the Christian saint, was obviously appropriated by the Christians. The goddess was appropriated by the Christians sort of to make her more palatable. And that might well be true. But something I find a little bit interesting, I've done a little bit of reading about Bridget, and she was born in the 5th century and lived through into the 6th century, apparently lived into a good old age by whatever records they have of her. But what's interesting to me is that the goddess Breed was obviously the goddess of fertility and creativity and spring, and this time of year is where we finally are ready for spring and finally ready for some new life and some new energy as the sun comes back to the northern hemisphere, just that little bit every day, which I don't know about you, but I really need that right now. So it's interesting to me that, well, in my imagination, put it that way, I wonder if the Christian Bridget recognized in some of the stories around the goddess Breed something of the divine that she could that she recognized, and that she could share of her own faith to the people that she was ministering to in Ireland at that time. But there's one story in particular about Bridget that I really like, and it's to do with it's one that's connected in with a folklore tradition of leaving cloth outside on the eve of St. Bridget, and it's the story of Bridget's cloak. And the story goes that she went to the King of Leinster, who was a pagan, and that just means that he had a different faith tradition to her own. And she asked him for a piece of land to build a monastery, or not a monastery, build a church and build a home for her and her women who also worked with her and enacted out their faith tradition together. And the King of Leinster wouldn't give it to her. So she prayed that God would soften his heart, and then she asked him, hi Evelyn, nice to see you on Instagram. I've got to watch her on Instagram. How exciting. So she asked the King of Leinster if he would just give her the amount of land that her cloak would take up. And he laughed and said, sure, okay, because obviously her cloak wasn't that big. So yeah, you can have a piece of land that is the size of your cloak, no bother. So what she did was she got each of her women, she took her cloak off, she got 3 other women, and told them to run as fast as they could in the directions north, east, south, and west. And as they ran, the cloak expanded so that it took over a vast piece of land. And this miracle made the King of Leinster change his mind and give her some land for her people. And now, it's just kind of a cool story, right? It's interesting. But it got me thinking that Bridget's faith was such that she just went for it. She put it out there. She knew what she wanted. She wanted land. She wanted to create a home, a stable place that she could share her faith for. And bear in mind, when we think of the Christianity now, and particularly the Christianity in Ireland, when we think of nuns and saints, they all seem very dour and pious. But I reckon that Bridget was probably quite a strong-minded, fierce woman, and her whole passion was for serving those who were not being served by the system and by the hierarchy at the time. So her whole mission was to look after and serve the poor in the area that were being just left behind by the greater hierarchy, patriarchal hierarchy at the time. And she just stood her ground and demanded and had the faith that she'd get what she needed to complete her mission. Now, whatever you think about how Bridget's legacy has been carried on, whether or not it's been appropriated into a patriarchal system that does more harm than good, I want you to go away today thinking about what you want, what you really desire, and would you run north, south, east, and west to stake a claim on the ground that you want? And for many of us, particularly women, we kind of go through this whole place. Hey, Ula. We go through this time of thinking, oh, I don't want to take up too much space. I don't want to take up too much. I don't want to be too loud. I don't want to ask for too much. I don't want to make too much of a fuss. We're kind of conditioned to be really apologetic. There was nothing apologetic about Bridget and what she was demanding and what she had the faith to envision. And so my shout out today is for St. Bridget, and I want you to take away a thought of what is it that what land do you want? What space do you want to take up? What's that burning in your heart? Bridget is also the keeper of the eternal flame. And, just go for it. Run. Put your cloak down. Stake your claim. Demand even of the universe or God, whatever you understand that to be. This is what I want. Now, it doesn't, oftentimes we sort of think, oh my goodness, that's just really selfish and I don't really want to put my selfish desires out there. But if it's coming from a place of, it just won't go away. This is a desire that's a deep-seated soul desire. And oftentimes, if it's something that is going to give a voice to somebody who doesn't have a voice, if it's going to tell a story that hasn't been heard yet, or that is going to empower somebody, or another group, or another woman, then that's a story that needs to be told. And then your voice is a unique voice to tell that story. So take your cloak, lay it down, and run in 4 different directions and spread it wide, and be blessed in your desire to spread your dreams wide. I hope that was helpful. Just a little shout out as well. I want to say thank you to Motherhood, Gemma at Motherhood, for my super, super duper Strong Girls Club sweatshirt. You can find Gemma at Motherhood. She makes some great, empowering, wise t-shirts and jewelry and mugs and stuff. She's fun, so check her out. Next week, I'm not sure who I'm going to have on the live feed yet, but keep up to date with things on the website, strutandbellow.com. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes. There's about 9 interviews with some really fascinating creative women and a couple of activists as well. So subscribe to the podcast. You can follow me on Instagram, Strut and Bellow, and on Facebook at Strut and Bellow MCP. I'm Melanie Clark-Pullen. Nice to see you, nice, and keep strutting and bellowing. See you now.